Here's a shocking truth that tennis fans don't want to admit. Even the world's best players are human, and Carlos Alcaraz just proved it in the most public way possible. When Team World claimed victory at the Laver Cup with a commanding 15-9 scoreline, defeating the defending champions from Team Europe, it wasn't just any ordinary upset. The tournament's decisive moment came when Taylor Fritz delivered the knockout blow against Alexander Zverev in their final showdown, sealing Andre Agassi's squad's triumph on the competition's concluding day. But here's where it gets controversial. The turning point wasn't that final match. It was Fritz's stunning dismantling of world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz on day 2. Contributing to Team World's perfect 4-0 sweep that essentially decided the entire competition. The Spanish sensation, who had seemed virtually unbeatable for months, crumbled under Fritz's pressure in straight sets, losing 6-3, 6-2. This marked the first time the American had ever defeated Alcaraz in an official ATP Tour encounter, and the manner of victory left tennis enthusiasts worldwide scratching their heads in disbelief. While Alcaraz managed to bounce back with victories in his subsequent Laver Cup appearances, the damage was already done. The shocking nature of his defeat against Fritz had everyone asking the same question. How could the most dominant player of 2025 suddenly look so vulnerable? Andy Roddick has the answer everyone's been missing. Former U.S. Open champion Andy Roddick believes he has the explanation that most tennis analysts have overlooked, and his reasoning might just change how you view professional tennis scheduling forever. Speaking during his Served live show in San Francisco, Roddick painted a picture that should make every tennis fan reconsider what we expect from our sporting heroes. Let's take a step back and examine what Carlos Alcaraz has endured over the past several months, Roddick began, setting up his compelling argument. If we're going to provide honest, responsible analysis, we need to rewind all the way to April, when he kicked off this absolutely insane tournament run in Monte Carlo. And this is the part most people miss. The statistics surrounding Alcaraz's recent performance are almost too ridiculous to believe. I'm probably going to be slightly off with the exact number, but he reached either 9 or 10 consecutive finals, Roddick explained, his voice carrying a tone of amazement. We're talking about a string that includes multiple Masters 1000 events, Monte Carlo, Rome. The list just keeps going and going. The mind-blowing numbers that explain everything. Here's the concrete evidence that supports Roddick's theory about Alcaraz's condition. Monte Carlo Masters, champion. Barcelona Open, runner-up. Italian Open, champion. French Open, champion. Queen's Club Championships, champion. Wimbledon, runner-up. Cincinnati Open, champion. U.S. Open, champion. 3 Grand Slam tournaments, capturing 2 titles and delivering what might have been one of the greatest matches I've witnessed firsthand at Roland Garros, Roddick continued, his analysis growing more passionate. Then he conquers the U.S. Open, displaying what I believe represents the highest level of tennis I've ever seen him produce. And that's saying something when you're discussing a phenomenon like Carlos Alcaraz. But here's where Roddick's argument becomes impossible to ignore. After that U.S. Open triumph, he returns home, skips Davis Cup duty, and has exactly 14 days before the Laver Cup begins. The controversial truth about athletic limits. There's absolutely zero chance that any responsible coaching staff or fitness professional would recommend 6-hour training sessions during those 2 weeks, Roddick stated boldly. At some point, the human body and mind demand recovery, and we should actually be applauding Carlos Alcaraz for his commitment. This perspective challenges everything we think we know about professional sports. Should we expect superhuman consistency from athletes? Or should we celebrate their humanity? It would have been incredibly easy for him to take the entire month off and call it a season, Roddick pointed out. Instead, he actually showed up and competed, even though he was probably operating at less than optimal preparation levels. Roddick's next statement might be the most important point in this entire debate. There's simply no universe where he should have been pushing himself physically or mentally after the US Open. That scenario just doesn't exist in responsible athletic management. The question that changes everything. Also, let's get some perspective here, Roddick challenged his audience. What exactly are we doing? This player has set such impossibly high standards that when he loses to the world's fourth-ranked player, someone who reached a Grand Slam final and made Wimbledon semifinals this year, we're all acting like the tennis world is ending. How could this possibly happen, we ask? This raises a thought-provoking question. Are we placing unrealistic expectations on our tennis superstars? Have we forgotten that even the best athletes in the world are entitled to off days, especially after months of grueling competition? What's next? The redemption story begins. Alcaraz now shifts his focus to the Asian swing, beginning with the Japan Open in Tokyo, where he'll pursue his 8th ATP title of the 2025 season. The 6-time Grand Slam champion enjoys a relatively favorable path to the championship in Japan, though potential obstacles include Frances Tiafoe and his former Laver Cup teammate Casper Ruud. Here's where the story gets interesting. If Alcaraz successfully navigates to the final, he might face Taylor Fritz once again. The American enters as the tournament's 2nd seed, setting up a potential revenge scenario that could write the perfect ending to this Laver Cup chapter. Fritz won't have an easy route either, with dangerous opponents like Gabriel Diallo and Tomas Machok potentially standing in his way during the early rounds. The real question we should be asking, so here's what I want to know. Do you think we're being fair to Carlos Alcaraz? Should athletes be expected to maintain peak performance indefinitely? Or should we celebrate their dedication to showing up even when they're not at 100%? And here's the controversial part that might spark some heated debate. Is Andy Roddick making excuses for Alcaraz, or is he revealing an uncomfortable truth about how we consume professional sports? What do you think? Was Alcaraz truly unprepared, or did Taylor Fritz simply outplay the world #1 on that particular day? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get this conversation started.